Hello. Testing.
I'm going to call this meeting to order. We can start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Will you please stand? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can we have a roll call, please?
Here.
Trustee Diggin is absent. Trustee Eastman.
Here.
Trustee Hollander is absent. Trustee Jamerson.
Here.
Trustee Smith.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. I would like to get an approval of the minutes. The agenda is incorrect, I should say, from September 2023.
Second.
All in favor?
Wait.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I have a question.
Is there a, does anybody?
Okay. Under the information items from the president, A, resident and staff communications, I tried several times to understand what was trying to be said in that paragraph, and I couldn't get it.
Since I'm not the president, and I didn't make the comment, I'm not sure what,
It's okay.
what can we do about that?
Well, we can defer approval of the minutes until the next meeting. My recollection was that the mayor was trying to say that because we now have a deeper bench and consultants, on staff, that the public shouldn't always be calling the consultants directly, that we have more in-house capability. I don't know if there's a more graceful way to say that.
And that is what she, I do remember that's what she said.
The other question I had was whether we ought to strike the sentence under visitors wishing to address the board. Some do not do their job, rather they just approve things. I don't see why that should be memorialized in the minute.
Oh,
That's right, under visitors.
Yeah, I see it. I'm okay with striking that.
Okay, then I'll move that with that change, that the minutes be approved.
Okay. And, okay. So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Treasurer and Finance Report.
I'm going to turn it over to Bill.
Thank you, Trustee. Thank you. With a great honor that I want to introduce to the board our new Director of Finance, Tony Vasquez. Tony comes to us, he hails from Mundelein as an next. Having served, thank you, having picking up his accountancy degree from the University of Illinois and his Master of Public Administration from Northern Illinois. We welcome him. He's like a giant sponge. He's taking all information in and processing it properly. So we really welcome him. He's a terrific find for us, and it's my great pride to introduce Tony to the board tonight. Okay, thank you. Move along to approval of bills. We need a motion to approve the bills.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments? Call, please.
Trustee Clayton?
Aye.
Trustee Eastman?
Aye.
Trustee Smith?
Aye.
Trustee Jamerson?
Aye.
Motion
I
passes.
don't know my mic on. Thank you. Director of Community Services report.
I have nothing to report tonight, sir.
Excellent. Thank you. You are doing great. Just keep it up. Okay. I appreciate that more than you can imagine. Consultants reports. Mr. Hubbard.
I have whatever I have is in the agenda later, so I have nothing else.
Engineers report.
Good evening.
Good evening.
We started the road program, so there's various roads that are receiving patching, crack sealing. That'll be going on for the next couple weeks, and then they should be wrapped up for the season. The sewer lining was done last week, so that's completed. I had a pre-con meeting today over at Lake County Public Works regarding the Saunders Road Force Main project that they're going to be starting here in the next month. So if you recall, they have a project that they're replacing, I shouldn't say replacing, they're installing another force main. So it'll be the third force main along the east side of Saunders. They're starting south, so they start with the gravity system. It's about halfway down Saunders between Lake Cook and Deerfield, and they're going to work north. And then they eventually will work up to where the current lift station is, which is up by West Course on Saunders. And they're going to replace that at the next phase. So it's a two-phase thing, but right now they're going to be installing majority of the force main. So I was there representing the village, and they know to communicate well with traffic, any type of traffic impacts. They are going to send over a little verbiage to be put into our newsletter about their construction schedule and exactly what impacts the village is going to see. And then they're going to coordinate with the chief. I gave him the chief's number as well to coordinate any type of traffic disturbance, any kind of public safety. I also gave them Mike Grinnell's number from our office because they'll need a meter. They are directionally drilling majority of the force main. So you need that for that application. So we'll be installing a meter for them, and any type of water system impact they might potentially have during construction. They know to give us a call, and we'll be out there to inspect that. So that project's going to start mid-October, and it's supposed to be completed by mid to late May next year. Just because obviously we kind of miss a month with the weather and the holidays. So they'll be done about mid-May. And if you recall, we're going to go out for our phased water main replacement project along Saunders. So there might be some coordination between the two, but we'll coordinate with the county on that. So I just want to give everyone a heads up about that. That will be starting. And then also the play area, the equipment is supposed to be delivered next week, and they want to start the following week. So we'll coordinate with Team Real and also Urban Forestry about the root pruning and the logistics of them actually starting in this late of the season and making sure we don't do any damage to the trees and the area in that area. Other than that, that is all for my report tonight.
I have one quick question for you in regards to the county work that they're doing on the, is that they're going to, that's where they're going to cross diagonally,
Yes.
Riverwoods or Deerfield Road?
Correct. And that's the reason why they want to start south, so they can get through the intersection, hopefully while the HMA plants are still, the asphalt plants are still open, because the county will not allow them to do any type of temporary patch. So they have to get in and out before the plant closes. Otherwise, they're not going to get approval to start.
Which is usually around Thanksgiving, depending on the
Correct.
weather. Okay, thank you. Any other questions for the consultants? Okay, thank you. Ecologist report.
Stacy Libra, sorry. Is it gonna reach over here? Stacy Libra is from Indigo Ecological Design. Just to recap this, for the past several years, we've been hearing things about the police station and the landscaping immediately around the building. And so a few months ago, we brought in or asked Stacy to give us a proposal to basically put a native landscape plan together, a formal native landscape plan, and provide a cost estimate. And the board approved that proposal a few months ago. I met with Stacy and Bruce. Where'd Bruce go? Down here. And then basically from those comments, Stacy prepared over the last couple weeks, months, the plan that she's going to present to you all tonight.
Thanks, Steve.
Do you want her to sit or take the?
Can you hear me? Okay. Thanks, Steve. So just as a little bit of background, I thought it would be good to show some photos of what the landscape looked like earlier this summer, just to give you a sense of why we're here doing a plan. And we were tasked with coming up with a formal native landscape design for the police station. One, to just create a more like welcoming entry, beautiful landscape, complement what the fire station is doing, and just improve maintenance and, you know, fill some bare areas around. So here in the photo, you can see there's some nice ornamental plants on the entry drive to the police station, but lots of bare mulch area. And essentially any bare mulch area is just going to be welcoming for weeds. So the more open space you have will just be filled with weeds. So by interplanting more native plants in this area, we'll be able to kind of crowd out the weeds. So maintenance will be less. And then we'll just, here's just some other shots here. So there's some geranium, there's some allium, some baptisia, and some viburnum shrubs. So they're all pretty nice things. They're not, the allium and the geranium are not technically native. They're cultivars and related species, but we'd like to keep the landscape that's here, but interplant with other native plants, and we'll see that on the plan. Yeah, you can see kind of, it's just, maybe there were more plants here at one time, but there have been areas that have died out, and we're just looking to supplement there. And just some weeds starting to move into. Then at the front door, there's these dwarf bush honeysuckle shrubs, which are native, and honestly, they're kind of the right size shrub for the space, but they're also like not giving a lot here. They're not that flowery. They have a decent fall color, but they're kind of just consuming the whole space and not, like I think it's a lost opportunity where we could have more flowers and other, like more diversity of native plants. So we'd propose removing the shrubs here and replacing it with other native plants that we'll see on the plan. And then similarly around the flagpole, we have the milkweed that we love from monarchs, but you know, milkweed is quite weedy and it really gets pretty tall. So we'd like to come back with butterfly weed and other native plants that still support monarchs, but are smaller in stature and like showier. And then this was another area that we heard was like a kind of an issue where the exhaust from the police trucks were like killing the turf and the ferns that are back here. So we replaced this on the plan with like really heat and drought tolerant plants. Oh, here, you can see it there better. And then this is the bioswale that is in between the fire station and the police station. And right now, this section is really quite weedy. It's full of some native species that are really aggressive, like goldenrod, and I think is pretty much full of thistle and some other weeds. So we propose to kill this section off and start fresh, so we can get a more diverse mix. Maintenance long-term will be easier if we can kind of start over in this section. Once we move, like if I turned 180 around in this photo, the plant community gets much better and we can manage that with maintenance rather than starting over. But this section, like discussing with Steve and Officer Dano, we thought that that would be the right approach in this area. And then also you'll see on the plan, we added a turf band on the backside of this garage. So any maintenance on the building is a little bit easier, and just maintenance around the bioswale is easier. And then to the sign, I know there might be some work happening around here in the future, but we were kind of tasked with making this a more ornamental landscape behind the sign. It's definitely got a natural feel to it, which is cohesive with the landscape behind it, but it's not really that showy or ornamental. So we do have a plan for this area to clean up under the trees, limb up the trees, and kind of create more of a formal planting bed on the sign. And oh, and then this is a little bit out of order, but the other thing we looked at was on the backside of the police station, there's this patio that seems really underutilized, and so we've proposed some trees around the patio, so there's a little bit of shade. Hopefully in the future there can be a grill or a picnic table with an umbrella. I'd support everybody eating lunch outside, but we've included that in the plan. That's the sign. Okay, so I got to the good part already. All right, to the plan, and I'll just go through this quickly, but okay, I'll skip the specs. But in the specs, it includes, if you read through it, it's got information on kind of more of the process of how to do the landscape install and maintenance specifications. This is our site preparation sheet, kind of going through everything I mentioned. There are some weedier trees by the bioswale that would be removing. But other than that, everything checks with what we've talked already. And you can see the overall plan here. You can see the extent of the bioswale reseeding. That extends just a little bit beyond the garage. Okay, zooming into the entry drive, and I'll flip to the color version. With the allium and the geranium that's there, we're adding prairie smoke, which is a spring blooming, very small statured native plant with Sporobolus or prairie dropseed, which is another shorter grass that there's a lot of outside of this building actually. And then backed on the back side of the bed with a little bit taller purple flowering perennials, there's Liatris and Echinacea and little blue stem. So that is just filling in the spaces between the existing plants. The green is turf. We're adding a turf band in between the landscape bed and the bioswale, similar to behind the garage, just creating a more easy maintenance edge that kind of defines the formal planting bed, and then the seeded bioswale. And then at the entry, just I'll kind of call out a few plants so you can see kind of the patterns that are here. We're trying to repeat patterns of different plants. So the light pink is that prairie smoke, and often we have it mixed with a grass. And mixing perennials and grasses together in a clump helps support the native plants, because a lot of prairie plants are, notoriously tall and floppy. Not that we've selected those, but they have, they work together in communities. The orange is the butterfly weed, so that's the monarch supporting host plant. So you can see that throughout here. Along the front of the building, we have a cultivar of switchgrass, Shenandoah, and this is, the reason we selected a cultivar on this one was just so it will less readily reseed and spread around the planting beds. And also it has a little bit shorter stature and it's got like a little bit redder leaves. So it makes it a more ornamental plant. But it's very sturdy grass, so you can leave it up over the winter. It's got, you know, sturdy stature to it, so it provides winter interest the same way as shrubwood. And yeah, we've got a variety of native plants here. I'll just jump to the plant list. Right. Well, here on the list, you can see we have kind of a range of flowers throughout the season from spring through fall. So there will be all seasons of interest. And if you leave the seed heads and grasses up over the winter, you'll have winter interest as well, which we'd support for habitat as well. Seed mix, Steve helped create, so you know it's good. And then here's photos of all of the plants. The trees we have proposed are both oaks, the swamp white oak and red oak. And just a range of colors, plant shapes that are going to be blooming through the seasons, and all like pretty short statured. So they are more acceptable in a formal landscape. And then jumping to the cost estimate here, we've got this is still all lumped together with the sign and the police station, so we can break this out if this is ultimately going to be two projects. But with all the site preparation, erosion control in the seeded area, planting, and then management of bioswale for 3 years, we've got a total of kind of around $25,000. And that is the overview. Does anyone have any questions? I can dive into more detail on specific things.
Trustee Clayton.
A number of years ago, the RPC put in a rather substantial rain garden on the west side of the parking lot. As I think the signs are still actually there.
Yeah.
And within about a year and a half, it had completely died in spite of a lot of care and maintenance. And the problem was that, at least at the time, I don't know if it still is today, the police station parking lot is heavily salted. And when Gewalt took a soil sample around the area, it was very, very heavily infused with salt. And the other issue was that the construction machinery and equipment that had been used to build the police station had severely compacted the soil so that even some of the rain garden plants with longer root systems and so on couldn't make it down past this barrier that was there.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess my question is, how much of this is salt tolerant? Is it still an issue today? And do we have any concerns about the construction compactment?
Well, from the compaction side, I think for the planting beds, like we should be able to dig enough when we're planting the plugs that I don't anticipate them to be incredibly compacted, given that there's a lot of plants there already. And then in the bioswale, we've got disking the soil as part of the site preparation to, when you kill off the weeds, to disc it in. So at least decompacts the top 6 inches. I don't know if you
Yeah,
have.
I can add to that. So the rain garden.
Talking to the microphone.
So the rain garden is the only place where water drains off and it goes to the detention basin. The first year I started here, and we were doing applied ecological services at the time, we put like 200 prairie cordgrass plugs in the rain garden swale, and it's completely filled with those right now. The only thing I think I recommended to you is I think the fence around the rain garden can come down so it blends in with what's around it. All the other planting areas are above the curb where there is no salt, unless there's spray.
There'll be
Unless there's spray, but no direct runoff into it.
So thank you. Just a couple of questions. Will it look integrated with the fire department? I know this is the police department we're talking about, I think, but we still want it to look kind of holistic. Will it make sense together?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know that the fire department does not have an exclusively native palette, so it probably will look a little bit different. But these have all been selected for their ornamental qualities, so it will, blend in that way that it's.
I just have 3 more questions.
That's great. Keep them coming.
Just 3 more. One of I noticed you, part of it was turf. And is that, how's that, I'll just be honest, being a relatively new trustee, how's that maintained? Does the police department cut it? Does somebody else cut it? I mean, does that need to be cut? How's that managed?
That'd be a great question.
We have a landscaper.
Yeah, so one of you probably knows there's a landscaper that mows the turf areas.
Okay, so my point was I just didn't want to put in turf, then, kind of let it go to pond, so to speak. The other question I had for you was really getting at the idea of the red oak. In Riverwood, there's a lot of red oak dieback. And the white swamps, I think, are pretty tolerant I think it's a fungus. You guys would know better than I. Are we good with putting in a red oak, or should we think about maybe a different native tree?
Yeah, so red oak is one of white oak and red oak are going through the oak decline syndrome, but only the older trees. If you notice, the younger ones are not affected. However, let's change that out. We can make it like sycamore maybe, which is, again, can tolerate a lot of really wet and really dry. That's a good point.
That's all I have.
Is sycamore on the approved list now?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions, Trustee Eastman? No? We're not going to take any action tonight.
So we're not required to take any action. The point of looking at the plan is to decide if the board likes it, if it wants to send it back for further revisions. If you like it well enough, at some point we could ask Steve to prepare a bid package and we could get contractors to bid on it. Who would supervise the work? Would Indigo, or would you supervise the work?
We could do either. We've got it in our proposal as like a additional task, so we're happy to help with that. And then I'd trust Steve to do it too.
Usually the firm or company that designs it does the oversight, the construction oversight. But
Okay. So there's no urgency to instruct Steve to go out to bid now. You may want to let this marinate, think about this for a while. I don't know what the board wants, but the next step is, if you want to go forward with the plan, is to, you have a comment, Lori?
Yeah.
Oh,
Can you pass her the microphone, please?
it would be to go out to bid.
My question is, the milkweed are really nice in that one plot. Are you going to be pulling all that out or interspersing other things with that?
The intent is that we would take that out.
Yeah. There's people watching at home, maybe.
The intent is that we would take it out, just given that it's quite tall and like a little bit weedy in its nature and how it spreads. So that's why we would replace with the butterfly weed.
I go in there and I take pods and they go to the pollinator project, the Midwest Pollinator Project. So that would delete those from our contribution, which would be a shame because they're pretty nice milkweed. It has good pods.
that was my call to take the common milkweed out. I just want to make that clear. It is one of the weediest native milkweeds. The butterfly milkweed is much shorter, does not spread, and fits in better with the plant palette around it. The common milkweed, I'll say, you can go along any ditch line anywhere and find it in abundance because it's kind of a weed, just to make that clear. That was my call.
I suggest that we keep some of it because it is good and we use it. We send it to Pollinator Project and they appreciate it. So anyway, just for consideration.
Is that, Lori, is that the only place it is around the police station?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Trustee Clayton?
I don't think we need, I'm speak for myself, I don't think I need any more time to ruminate on this. I would direct Steve to prepare a bid package.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, well, Steve, oh, hold on. Trustee, Commissioner Graditor.
Whatever she is. How deer resistant are these plants?
Nothing's doing.
There you go.
I mean, I think there's a range of deer resistance. I haven't selected them all specifically for deer resistance.
Good idea.
Okay. I know that nothing is really deer proof, but I can take a look back through the plants and make sure we're selecting ones that are, more tolerant. The only thing I would add on the bid schedule, if you want to move forward with it this fall, trying to get plants in the ground before the end of October-ish would be recommended. Otherwise, I'd wait till the spring. Something like that.
Yes, yeah, I would do it in the spring if you're going to do it, for sure. That gives also more time, to put bid packages and all that kind of stuff together. And I will mention about the milkweed. So in the bioswale, that gets reseeded. And there is 2 species of milkweed in that seed mix as well, I believe. Swamp milkweed for sure, maybe butterfly milkweed, but.
And were you going to comment about the deer?
Oh, so it seems like I hear you. So, I mean, I've done 300 consultations with residents and everyone is, well, what do I put in for deer? Deer are going to eat pretty much anything you put in. I mean, it's just the reality of the situation. I'm just being transparent.
They don't trust my Joe Pye weed. They don't trust my.
Well, not everything, but yeah, because the milkweed, nothing likes that except because it's sour.
Okay.
So there is no immediate urgency. We can, well,
Well, I think he could start putting together the bid package paperwork
Okay.
with you working with him, yes? Okay.
we'll do that.
Anything else on that subject?
Well, I guess the last thing just might be is there any thought to maybe, instead of removing all of the existing milkweed, remove like some of it so we still have the pods that we can donate and things like that? Or is it really kind of an all or nothing approach? And I don't know the answer. I'm truly asking it as a question.
You could transplant them, but in the nature of what we're trying to do, they need to be removed from that spot.
Could we take some of the pods from this year's pods and disperse them someplace else on the property? I mean, we have the woodland area. I mean.
Oh gosh, I'm going to get in a lot of trouble. A lot of people here tonight, I think. I just don't recommend it. I never put it in a single seed mix in 20 years because it is that weedy. Yes, there are other milkweeds that are better.
Okay, we were going to move along. Thank you very much for your
Thank you.
presentation. All right, Plan Commission report. Commissioner Brykoff.
Good evening, everyone. The Plan Commission met on September the 7th. We discussed possible land uses for the Walter Kluwer site again. We got some very helpful parameters from Tesca Associates as to what to look for when we drive in a neighborhood, and they have given us a list of homes to tour, home areas, developments to tour, to see what we might like or not like, what kind of parameters we might set if we make any changes to the comprehensive plan. So the commissioners are going to make these tours between now and our next meeting on October the 5th, and we'll discuss what we have found. It's been a very interesting experience and very helpful. Tesca's been a very big help to us. And we'll be meeting again on the 5th of October. And we'll continue our discussions about the comprehensive plan and the Walter Kluwer site.
Any questions? Okay, thank you. Zoning Board of Appeals, Commissioner Graditor.
I have it down pat, ladies and gentlemen. Nothing to report.
Okay, thank you very much. Police report, Chief.
Yes, on September 14th at 10:08 a.m., we went to a vehicle crash involving a pedestrian at the corner of Riverwoods Road and Portwine Road. We found a 32-year-old male who was injured, struck by a vehicle that had left the scene. The victim patient was transported to the emergency room where he was treated for some injuries, but nothing significant from what I'm told, and he was released that day. We did locate the driver of the car, who was a 70-year-old male out of Northbrook, and we charged him with felony leaving the scene of a personal injury accident, failure to give aid and information, and failure to use speed to avoid an accident. After we processed him, we brought him for a bond hearing at Lake County. Additionally, I spoke with Fire Chief Tom Kruger, who asked me to relay a report on a fire that we all responded to on September 11th at 7:20 a.m. Firefighters and paramedics from Lincolnshire Riverwoods Fire Protection District responded to a report of flames showing in a garage and spreading to the living area of a large two-story house in the 1900 block of Rose Terrace. One occupant who was present in the house was able to evacuate before firefighters arrived. Lincolnshire Riverwoods Fire Protection District's activation of a mutual aid box alarm for manpower brought mutual aid firefighters, and paramedics, and/or command officers from Deerfield, Wheeling, Lake Zurich, Countryside, Libertyville, Lake Forest, Long Grove, and Mundelein fire departments. The Illinois State Fire Marshal was called to the scene to help with the investigation for the origin and cause. He was assisting investigators from the Lincolnshire Riverwoods Fire District. One item that he asked me to mention is that he would like to stress he'd like to stress that it is that rooms that had their doors closed during the fire sustained little smoke or fire damage. This had an immediate impact, and if anyone had been home in those rooms, they would have, they for sure would have made it out. So he asked that people close their door, keep the doors closed, and that further information, anybody can go to closeyourdoor.org on that subject. And that's all I have.
I will add that I mentioned as the chief earlier that they had another fire in Vernon Hills that afternoon, and almost all of those same fire departments responded to that fire as well. So they had a very busy day that day.
And when I mentioned everybody who responded to the fire, I forgot to mention that our new Director of Community Services, Steve Witt, responded while the fire was still going early that morning. So he came out there and made his declaration. Is that the right word?
Yes.
Yeah, that the house is not livable right now.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Okay, that takes care of the fire district report also. Thank you, Chief. Information items and comments from the president. This is one time I can say I have nothing to say. but don't get used to that. New business. Approval of a request for a donation to the Deerfield. I'm sorry. No, that's down the list. It's like yeah, that's okay. But thank you for keeping track of me. Approval of a request for a donation to the Deerfield Parents Network. Is there someone here to? Was someone going to make a presentation to us, or are we just going to? Do you know? $1,000. It is for the, probably for homecoming.
I was going to say after prom would be in the spring.
Yeah, proms. I'm sorry, I didn't. It doesn't say what it's for. It doesn't say what they're going to use it for.
If I may, on the page, it describes the purpose of the funds to be used to provide an array of free, expert-led educational programs to parents which offer the tools needed to teach their children to make safe and healthy choices. Further says that the programs share resources, experience, and ideas of professionals, educate parents on strategies and tools for effective parenting, and empower families, schools, and communities.
Yeah, it does say also that the requests have been made to us yearly since 2013. And the $1,000 contributions have helped to support parenting programs reaching 2,800 students. So I'm assuming that that's what they're asking for.
So is this a separate contribution from the after prom contribution?
You know as much as I know.
Yeah.
I would guess it is a separate, I will guess in the spring they will be asking for
Well,
another
they
contribution.
have a couple of examples in here about what they do, taking the fear out of finals, college planning, what we wish we knew, an insider's guide to junior year, parenting a smooth transition to DHS, and so on. I actually have a couple of questions about that, so I'd like to
Well, let's just hold it over then.
hold
and
it over.
See if we can get a representative to come so that we can.
Yeah,
ask
I
some
think
questions.
somebody should be here to request the money.
Okay. That's easy. Okay. Old business. We need an approval of a resolution accepting water main improvements and a water main easement agreement and releasing a completion bond in the amount of $100,000 provided by Thornton's LLC.
So during the course of the construction of the Thornton's gas station, a water main was brought down the access road that's on the south side of the property. It served the Thorngate convenience store, but then we asked them to continue the water main for the balance of the access drive out to Milwaukee Avenue so we could, it's stubbed, and so we can eventually connect to another water main to make a loop. Carissa will correct me if I'm misstating anything.
It's to make a fourth connection to another water supply, which would be Buffalo Grove.
Thank you. So this was something, basically a gift to the village. We asked them to do this as part of their construction, so we didn't pay for it. They installed it. It's similar to when we ask a resident to extend the water main along the entire frontage of the property, even though maybe they only wanted to do it for 10 feet. They extended the water main the entire length. They did this during construction, and we realized as we were getting ready, as we were reviewing down the checklist of the completion bond, that we would like to have an easement for the water main and a bill of sale so it's conveyed back to the public. So we've held up the release of the completion bond until we had negotiated the water main easement and bill of sale, which are in the packet. The only thing in the resolution accepting the improvements and directing the release of the bond, I would just like to make it clear or amend that the bond should be released at such time as we have received the executed water main easement and bill of sale. It's in the works. I'll coordinate with Tony so we don't release the bond too soon. But basically, this is what we normally do when there's subdivision improvements that have become public improvements. We'd like to get title to them. We'd like to have an easement to make sure we can service them.
Okay. So can we get a motion with the little amendment that?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call, please. Oh, I'm sorry. Is there any discussion?
No.
No? Okay, roll call, please.
Trustee Eastman,
Aye.
Trustee Smith,
Aye.
Trustee Clayton,
Aye.
Trustee Jamerson.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay.
We'll get a resolution number at some point when we can next week. Yeah, we'll get one. I think I might even put it in there.
It's on here,
Yeah,
230904. Is that the right one?
I hope it is.
Okay. 230904.
I think
what
it is.
says. You should verify that with Bruce. Okay, are there any visitors wishing to address the board? Please. Please make sure it's turned on.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Randy Merrill from RPC. A few months back, a resident had reached out to us and mentioned, we're aware that we have the Deerfield Road expansion coming and the construction. We've addressed a lot of the trees that we might be losing. But as he mentioned, there is a, quote, plethora of amazing native species. He said he noticed white trillium, Virginia bluebells, wild geranium, May apples, and much, much more. So is there a way that we could start to look about maybe we'd like to present the big native dig and make it a community-wide event to try to save and transplant some of these natives, even maybe over there at the police station? We'd obviously have to coordinate for safety reasons. We'd have to figure out when actually they're doing the construction. But are some of these things transplantable? And could that be something we bring up for the community?
You have a comment on that?
I asked Steve Zimmerman if he thinks they're transplantable.
Well, they're probably transplantable. The question, oh, go ahead.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, a lot of them are transplantable, especially the spring ephemerals, because they're mostly like little tubers, like a bulb that you can dig up. And they could be transplanted on any of the, people's properties or any of the village sites that have woodlands.
This sounds like an incredible community-wide type of volunteer thing, right? Where we do some planning, we figure out who wants to join the group, we get the consent of the landowners, we figure out where this stuff is going to be transplanted. It's a big job.
It's a big job, but if we do some of it, I think it'd be very worthwhile. And whether or not people in the community get to pick out their own natives and plant their own, we do a sale or something, just for the fact that we're going to try to preserve something. Can't preserve those trees, but.
Yeah.
Since all that is going to be, eventually, a lot of it will turn into an easement, the county easement. Would we have to work with the county or the actual landowner? Because I'm not sure where the property line ends, and I wouldn't want to be stepping on somebody's property, pulling up their plants without.
I think the idea would be to do this before the county acquires title, while it's still the landowners, still with the landowner. The idea would be to be in there and out of there before the county ever comes in and.
Right.
Well.
So would we, RPC, coordinate with you, Bruce, or would we do with Henry, who I know does a lot of the road stuff? What direction should we go?
Well,
I mean, if you have to contact every homeowner that's along the way, right? I mean, we know who those people are. We have maps.
Mm-hmm.
But I would guess the RPC would have to reach out to them, the village. I mean, we can talk about it.
Great.
You're inviting a dialogue with the village to see how we might sort of jointly collaborate and have this accomplished. Is that what you're asking?
Okay.
I have one more. So the best timing for this, because their spring ephemerals is a lot of what you want to save, right? Is probably mid-April to mid-May. So it's got to be within that time frame. Otherwise, they disappear and you'll never know where to dig them up at.
Which would be good because I think they're going to start some of the utility work in the fall is what I believe. 2024 is the last I heard. If Henry was here, he could tell us more.
To the best of my knowledge, I keep hearing about them looking for easements. And I have property on Deerfield Road. I have not been contacted in any way, shape, or form. So they're not that up to the minute on what they're doing.
They have been contacting owners, as a matter of fact, but they haven't needed as much property on the north side of Deerfield Road as they once thought. They shifted some things around and they reduced the number of easements they needed at one point from 60-something to almost 30-something.
They told me they were taking 12 feet in front of my house because they wanted to put a swale and a sewer.
How long ago was that?
Oh, a while ago when they were having public meetings, which hasn't happened in a while.
Yeah, it may have changed because anyone that they needed an easement from, they have contacted with a formal letter and an appraisal.
Interesting, because the only thing I'm thinking is that it's in a land trust and maybe they couldn't find me. I don't know.
Can we take the ephemerals off your property?
You may have everything that they're going to destroy. I would be happy as a clam.
Okay, great.
So-
I just thought I'd ask while she was here. Okay.
Well, and I think the other piece of this, excuse me, is that I think it's a wonderful idea. And I think we should think about how we make it, to your point, a community event, a volunteer event. We could advertise it perhaps on the sign at Deerfield and Riverwoods Road. I think we should really make it like the old garbage pickup days and things like that, really make it something that we can be proud of.
That's a great idea.
And serve lunch.
Sure.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, any other visitors wishing to address the board? Okay. There's no reason to go into executive session. The next meeting will be on October 3rd at 7:30 PM here at the Village Hall. Can I get a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
There's a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you all.
Thank you.
See that.